Hello, everyone, and welcome. For the past few weeks of my wrestling commentary, I have mainly stuck with WWE, but today I thought I would switch it up and cover what's happening in AEW. So, before I begin, a quick bit of housekeeping. If you like my videos, I encourage you all to like, comment, and subscribe. And now, without further ado, let's begin. So, for our first match of the night, we had a trios match featuring the Elite of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Dante Martin and the Segal brothers. The first thing I want to say is that having not seen AEW in a couple of weeks, I really do want to say that it was good to hear Jim Ross's voice. I mean, to me, he was somebody that I grew up with in terms of wrestling commentary. So hearing him announce the match was definitely a real treat for me. Second thing I want to say is that I recognize a couple of people on this card, but one person I definitely did recognize was Evan Bourne, one of the Sadal brothers, and it was really good to see that he's still in the wrestling industry and he's be able to compete at a high level. So now on to the match. I really think that this was a good match featuring all six competitors. I think the Elite with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they definitely proved like how good they are, why like they are so admired in the wrestling industry. And one other person I do want to point out is Dante Martin. I thought that this was a really good first in terms of like main event match that he's been in. I mean, the man is only 20 years old, and I thought that he was really able to be a good competitor this match and really hold his own. So in this match, you had a couple like back and forth. In the end, ultimately, you had the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks winning. And at the end of this match, what we saw happening is that we saw Christian Cage and Jurassic Express come out, and both of them were commenting how essentially on this Friday night for Rampage, which is AEW's new show, Christian Cage will have a title match against Kenny Omega, and for next week, Jurassic Express will have a match against the Young Bucks. So I thought the match itself was good, but also just the end of the match where they were able to announce some matches for the upcoming cards. That was also good as well. So for our next match of the night, we had Darby Allin with Sting versus Dalen Garcia in 2.0. And for me, like I want to say the one thing I can say I like about this match is that I really like what they're doing with Darby Allin and Sting. I think that what we kind of see is a good sort of like mentor mentee relationship going on, and I think overall it's been good for him. And and for me, like I do want to say, I think this was a good match featuring Allen and Sting, and and in the end, Allen ends up winning. And what this did is that this helps set up a match for next week where we're going to see Allen and Sting versus 2.0. So I think this will be like I know Sting has been in a couple matches in AEW, but I think next week with him back in the ring, I think this is going to be a real treat to see. Our next match is match, which was another trios match where you had Wheeler, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor versus Matt Hardy and Private Property. I thought this was a solid match. The one thing I will say is that unlike the Bucks and Kenny Omega in their first match of the night, for this match it almost felt as though there were too many people in the ring. And that's the one thing I would say is that again I haven't like seen AEW in a while, so I would say essentially sort of like I think the one thing I would add is I think you need to be careful with sort of these kind of like these trio matches where essentially you have like six people, and of course I believe there was people outside of the ring. So that's one thing I will say that there's almost in a way, in my opinion, almost too many people sort of in the ring and outside the ring, which makes it kind of confusing to watch. I mean, overall I thought this was another solid match, but just if they could like again, this is just sort of like my sort of like fan response. It's just sort of like try to cut down on some of these match sort of like the overall quantity of people because I mean it was kind of hard to follow with so many people in and outside the ring. But overall, I thought this was a good match. Our next match tonight was the Impact Tag Team Championship match, and I will say I think this was pretty good because I think that this was a good spot to incorporate the partnership that Impact is having with AEW. I thought that I do want to say that I'm happy for the Good Brothers because it looks like they are happy where they are in AEW in Impact. I mean, because again, I'm thinking about sort of like when they were in WWE, you could definitely tell that they were not as excited as they want to be when they were there. So seeing them essentially, being featured as a premier tag team champion, as sorry guys. So seeing them as the premier tag team champions, I thought was pretty good. And I thought again this was a good match between the Dark Order. Ultimately the Good Brothers up to winning, and I think this was a good way to for its continuation because as I read essentially sort of we have the both the Elite and the Dark Order sort of like going back and forth, and there's been some friction in the Dark Order. So I think this was a good another good layer to that overall storyline. And for our last match of the night, we had Chris Jericho versus Wardlow. The one thing I want to say is that Chris Jericho, to me, is still one of the most entertaining wrestlers in business today. To me, like all his matches to me are just fun, exciting, and I just think ultimately, like to me, he's very much still on top of his game. Again, this match we had like a lot of good back and forth. Ultimately, we saw Chris Jericho win this match, and we saw that at the end of this match, this ends up leading to a brawl where you had MJF in his faction versus Chris Jericho in his faction, and that was pretty exciting to see. And this setup, we're essentially sort of like this. We are now entering another rivalry, or I should say, another match between in which will feature Chris Jericho versus MJF, and it looks like that'll be featured next week. And again, like I just think that this is another good storytelling opportunity that I think AW has crafted pretty well. And now for some news and notes. I know that I'm probably pretty late like announcing this, but it's been reported that that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are both signed at AEW. And just in case you're wondering, neither of them were featured tonight. But what we're hearing is that CM Punk, or at least what the rumors say, is that he's scheduled to be at AEW on August 20th when they're at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, and that I believe that will be an episode of Rampage. And speaking of Rampage, this is a new show, or I should say, a second weekly show that AEW is creating that will premiere this Friday, August 13th. And I just want to say congratulations to them, because I think that having another second show, it definitely shows that it's signs of growth for AEW. That hopefully it's growing its fan base and its audience reach. So again, congratulations to them. And for this upcoming Friday night, their first Rampage, again, it's going to feature Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. It'll feature Miro as the TNT Championship defending his title, and then of course it looks like they're going to have a couple of women's championship matches. So I think that it should be a good episode. So again, just to recap, I thought this episode of AEW Dynamite was pretty good. I thought it was a good, solid show, and I can definitely see why they are looking to expand on a second show. Alright, so that is the end of the video, guys. If you liked it, I encourage you all to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.